The following episode of Fight for Our Existence covers a missing and murdered Indigenous people case and includes discussions of violence, injustice, and sensitive topics. Listener discretion is advised. All information shared in this episode is based on publicly available sources, and any opinions expressed are those of the speakers. We are not law enforcement, legal professionals, or investigative journalists, and we do not make any claims regarding the guilt or innocence of any individuals mentioned. Our goal is to raise awareness and honor the voice of those affected. If you, someone you know, has information about MMIP case or needs support, we encourage reaching out to your local and national resources dedicated to this cause. Welcome to the Fight for Our Citizens podcast. I am your host, Matone Uncle Fox. This past week, I had the honor of attending the third annual MMIP Summit at the Apollo Hotel Casino and Spa in Southern California. I had the opportunity to sit down with three families to hear their stories and speak about their missing loved ones. A heartfelt thank you to Morningstar and Ashley from Indigenous Justice Nonprofit in California for organizing these interviews. The conference was intense and deeply moving, with many family members serving on the panels to share their experiences, whether their loved ones are still missing or have been found deceased. The summit highlighted the urgent need to raise awareness with other communities and among law enforcement about the steps we must take to protect and seek justice for our Indigenous relatives. My first interview was with Rieta from Big Sandy Rancheria in Fresno County, California. Rieta's sister, Bessie Walker, went missing on August 6, 2021. Her family reported her missing on August 8th, and nearly 2 weeks later, Bessie was found deceased just 100 yards from her home. The Fresno County Sheriff's Office ruled her death suspicious, and Rieta believes that someone in their community knows more than they're sharing with her or law enforcement. This was an incredible emotional interview. Rieta had just spoken on a panel in front of a large crowd about 30 minutes before she sat down with me. I wanted to provide you with a little background on her story. Now please listen as she speaks about her sister. Rieta, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Rieta. I'm Bessie Walker's sister.
Okay, and so we had a panel, and we had a lot of people on there to talk about their families and everything. And I know it's very difficult to get up there and talk about your sister, but you know, if you want to just the history of your sister and the things that happened, reading about it and listening to you. She was gone for how long was she was gone before they found her?
She was gone for 18 days. We reported her a missing person. We tried to call it in earlier before the 72 hours. The sheriffs told us that we couldn't make her a missing person until 72 hours. So she became officially missing on the 8th. We had our own family search for her, friends, cousins. We ended up finding her 18 days later, 100 yards from my mom's house on our property. I wasn't there during the search, but some of our searchers who were there were pretty traumatized.
Yes. And it was the family that found her, not the police or law enforcement?
It wasn't the police and the law enforcement. They had initially came out twice when we had gave them a lead thinking that it was her. Each one came out to be a no good lead, so they kind of got upset and they weren't gonna really come out anymore. So we just kept doing it on our own.
And how was the community at the time? Were they very helpful with this going on as when your sister was being looking at when you're trying to find her?
No, unfortunately not. We had very little help from our community. We had a couple of family friends who kind of would post on social media, if there's a search, they'd help. Some of our tribal members from our community did like 1 or 2 searches and they didn't. Our community was very quiet. Mm-hmm. We didn't get very much help from our tribal council. We kind of did everything on our own.
And when you're on a panel today and you're talking about the history of your sister, is it the same history? Because I'm from the reservation too. Most of the history that goes on a res is almost the same as every other reservation. So is that when you were talking about, if they could just set aside her past and look for her, was it any kind of drug issues she had, or?
She did. She did have a history of drug use. She had a criminal history, but nothing major. So when we did our first protest, I was approached by one of the news ladies who kind of mentioned about her history. It kind of upsetted me because whether my sister had a history of drug usage or being in jail for 72 hours or a couple days, it didn't have anything to do with her being found murdered or gone missing or having the lack of Fresno County and helping us search for her.
Well, it's like that. Even if a person is a drug user or alcoholic, people, they could get run over, they can get hit by fentanyl. So there's a lot of issues out there. Instead of saying, oh well, they got a bad record, so it's probably happened again. But again, it sounds like Fresno, the police department didn't take it seriously.
No, they didn't. We had one detective. He was he knew our family really well. He was willing to come out and search and do as much as he can. But unfortunately, he wasn't chosen to be our detective for my sister's case.
And how old was your sister at the time?
She was 27.
Oh, she was very young. Yes. I know how that feels. I always talk about my situation, or my mom's situation. Her sister had passed at 27 and left 3 kids behind. And even today, those kids still struggle. My cousin is 56, and and they still struggle of the past of when their parents died, from when their mom died. So when we think about how much this thing here affects their kids' life for the rest of their lives, is it's a lot of pressure for them. It's a pressure for the family, because they're looking to you guys, to your family, for help now.
It is. It's really hard. Her oldest son he's going through a lot right now. Trying to get him to stay on the right track and treat his grandmother with respect. It's been a little journey for her, for herself, and she just wants to do what's best for him and be there for him. But he's going through it, and he doesn't know how to express that. All of her kids are with their grandparents, who do an amazing job with them. But they all worry for the same thing. Like, they're all going to have questions, and we don't have answers.
Right. And most of the time, and especially all communities that I know of, the grandmother's always got to step up, because the siblings have kids too, and so our grandparents are very strong, very resilient, and they really do what they can to help their grandchildren. So I'm glad that your grandmother is there for them.
Yes, they do have great grandmothers. So it just kind of sucks because they don't have a mom or a dad.
Yeah, and it's something that they're gonna have to deal with for a long time. I know, like I said, I have cousins that lost their mom early. And so they always wonder, what would it be like if my mom was still here? When we have all these gatherings, we have all these cultural gatherings, they think about their mom and their, what part that she would have played in today, And so I hope the kids find what they're looking for, maybe in their culture or maybe anything that they have going in your community.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
My niece, I talk to my niece all the time, and she's like, my mama Bessie's an angel now. Or my nephew Kenny's like, you don't know what I'm going through, you don't know she's my mom. My nephew Mason, he's just kind of he talks to his grandma a lot about it. Like, he has questions, but she doesn't want to answer in the wrong way.
And is there any help for the kids, like counselors or anything like that in that area?
There are. I know that one of the grandmas had signed up my nephew for school therapy and another program up there, but I just don't think it worked out for him. But they do offer support. I know the Fresno American Indian Health Project offers them support. It's just trying to get them to do it and open up when they're ready.
Okay. And for now, as your sister has passed, there's no one that's been accounted for, no one that's been arrested. No one that's been, talked to?
No, there's nobody been arrested. There's been no lead. I've gotten a couple things from people, which I've reported to the detective. I sent in text messages, videos, conversations, and people who are willing to testify. And every time I've given it to the detective, he's like, it's not enough. I can't go off a hearsay. The DA won't take it. I need tangible proof, and I don't know what more he needs if, people are willing to testify.
And this, was it on federal land or state, or
It was on federal land. It was on tribal land. So where my sister was found, we don't think that was the original crime scene.
Okay. They moved her.
Yeah, we feel that they moved her, and that's been mentioned in previous conversations from other people. And I've told the detective about that too, and nothing's been done.
Okay. So if they don't, solve the case, this thing stays open, for a long time, right?
Yeah, it does stay open. We're hoping that it doesn't go cold and she becomes forgotten.
Yeah. Is there anything that you guys do to remember her, or you guys do any kind of things for the family? Like, as for instance, like, there's some that do a dinner once a year, or, just go out there and advocate. Like, well, today you were advocating for her today. And that's something that's good because, a lot of people forget. And so advocating it yearly or whenever you can is really good to help with your sister.
We do her, last year we went and let some balloons off for her and for her birthday. So we try to keep her in thought. I know my nieces, my nephews, they do that too every year. My sisters will do a cake still. We share her story constantly on social media. We try to keep her story alive.
Yeah.
I've tried reaching out to the news stations to see if they can get her story back up and her reward offer, but I haven't heard anything back.
And what's the reward offer for her?
$10,000. It originally started with $2,000, but we got an anonymous donation for $8,000. And I had figured somebody would have spoken by now. It's $10,000, and apparently it's not enough.
Okay. Yeah, it's tough. I know for the family, especially for you. How close were you to her, like in age?
I'm 36. She's 27. She was the baby.
Oh, okay.
But we were really close. She went through a lot, so I try to be there for her as much as I can.
I know it's tough. I mean, like, again, for me personally, living on a reservation, on 2 reservations. Like I said, my mom had, her sister had passed, and my mom was 25 and her sister was 27 when she passed. So very close. So I could see, where you're at, because I watched my mom go through that, from the day she passed till today. My mom still talks about her, and so it's just something that that doesn't go away, and hopefully, because my mom's sister's case is open also. So, I just hope that they find someone that did, or any answers for your sister, and hopefully someone in the community talks.
I'm hoping. I mean, they can even be anonymous. We just want answers.
Yes. Is there anything that we can do, or the listeners here can do, to help with your sister, or anything that we can do on social media?
Share her story, let them know that there's still a reward that's out there, that her case is still open and active. We just want her story to be out there and she's not forgotten.
Okay. Thank you, Rieta, so much for your time, and thank you for going on that panel. Like I said, that panel was so, a lot of pressure with everybody watching you, and those TVs and that live stream. That's very very encourageable for you to go up there and speak about your sister. So I want to thank you for that, and I hope we have all these listeners out here, listening, and see if they can help Rieta find Bessie's, whoever had done this to Bessie. Hopefully they could speak up, and so the family could close this for them.
Thank you. And it was really hard sitting up there next to Survivor and,
Mm-hmm.
listening to all the other panelists and tell their stories, and like the guy that was sitting next to me about his granddaughter. So
Yes.
I hope they also receive justice.
Yes. Well, Rieta, well, thank you very much for coming really quick and stopping by and giving us a quick story about your sister. And we'll make sure we all try hard and try to help you and find her and I mean find what happened to her. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
My second interview was with Laura Seal from the Pit River Tribe in Modoc County, California. Laura's grandson, Nick Patterson, was last seen on January 4th, 2020. His family reported him missing on January 8th. In May 2024, remains were discovered through positive DNA testing. They were confirmed to match his mother and father. This is a deeply emotional interview as Laura shares her journey of loss and seeking justice for Nick. Please take a moment to listen to her story. And I'm here with Laura, who was on earlier talking about her story of her family member. Laura, can you introduce yourself?
My name is Laura Seal. I come from the Wampsini Band of Pit River Indians, Northern California, extreme Northern California. The reason that I've been coming to these events, obviously, as I shared before, in January of 2020, January 5th to be exact, my grandson ended up going missing.
Okay.
He lived with me, and I seen him that morning. Later on in the day, I called over next door to see if he was over there, and the cousin had said, no, I thought he was over with you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I didn't get too alarmed.
Yeah.
The next day, I had a meeting in Bernie, where our tribal offices and all that are located. I thought I'll just go ahead and after the meetings, I will look for him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that just didn't turn up anything.
Mm-hmm.
So then I went back again the next day. The following day, I had to go in the opposite direction to take care of my own errands. Again, the following day, I went back down to Bernie and still nothing. So on a Thursday, my oldest son went with me to the sheriff's office in Alturas, and we filed a missing persons report. His mother, at the same day, had gone into the Bernie substation, which is in Shasta County, and she had filed missing person because by then we had found out that the last place that he had was known to be seen was down in Hat Creek.
Okay.
And so I went to our casino down in Bernie and went in, started asking people, and told them who this person was that they said he had been at her house. And they said, oh yeah, she's back there somewhere in here. So I went back and asked her, and she acted like she didn't hear me right at first.
Right.
And so when I did get her attention, she goes, oh no, I haven't seen him yet, but I've been gone. And I had already gathered enough info to know that was a lie, too.
Yes.
And then she just all of a sudden had this change of demeanor and everything, and she said, well, who told you that? I said, actually, that came from your son.
Yeah.
And then again, she switched up and oh, well, if I find him, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I don't need to talk to this person anymore. I've already caught her in a lie. So we continued on with the searches. We put out flyers. We did grid searches. We held rallies, just trying to make sure his face was seen, telling our story, that whole thing. And in the meantime, Shasta County, it just seemed like everything we tried, Shasta County law enforcement was no help, or they just outright blocked us.
Yeah.
We tried to get cadaver dogs up there, and they said no, that wasn't going to happen. There was a kind of like a sheriff's posse type, a group that horseback people, and they offered to come out and help search. And again, they were told by Shasta County that if you go out, you will be blacklisted, and you will not be allowed to go on any other events. And so they backed off.
Wow.
And there were just things like that happened. We'd hired a private detective, a white man, and he came, and he was just so full of hope, and told us that he had worked on that Sherry Papini case. This little blonde white woman that had gone missing up in Shasta County. Later on, it turned out that she had been with her boyfriend and had lied and said that some Hispanic women had kidnapped her and beat her up. And
oh, yes, I can't remember that.
oh, yes.
Yes.
So he claimed that he worked on that, and that he was the one that had brought her home. Well, later on, we found out that wasn't the case.
It was a lie, yeah.
But when he tried to go to the substation there in Bernie to introduce himself as, the detective working on our case, helping out, they literally wouldn't let him get a foot in the door. They didn't want any interference.
Why would Shasta feel that way towards the whole case? That it must be from past history of Shasta and then your people, or
yeah, it's no secret that they don't like Indian people. Some of it because they're at Four Corners in the 70s. Our Pitt River people, what they call the Battle of Four Corners, stood up and resisted like the big Roseburg Lumber Company and PG&E and all of those big landholders that just outright stole Indian land. And Pitt Rivers refused to take what amounted to 47 cents an acre, the California Inland Claims thing.
Yeah.
And that didn't set right with a lot of those bigger landholders in Shasta County. So Pitt Rivers were just troublemaking Indians, and they were drunks, and the whole, all this negative label that they like to put on Indian people. And I know that they told us that, Nick probably had just taken off and was on a bender someplace, or maybe he was with his girlfriend and didn't want to be found, all of that kind of thing. But we knew different because that wasn't in Nick's character.
Yeah. They were just saying what other, kind of racial profile kind of thing. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Definitely.
Oh, that's too bad. I mean, for Shasta to, not heal that from the history and come and help help the Modoc people and help them find your grandson.
Yes. Whether or not a person is a drunk or a druggie or whatever label you want to put on them, like I had mentioned a while ago, a human life is a human life. Only our Creator has the power to breathe that breath of fresh life into a person. And Creator should be the only one that would be able to take that life.
Yes.
But sometimes other people have other ideas. We were kind of under the assumption, because my grandson was 26 when this happened.
Mm-hmm.
He had worked for our tribal road department, and whenever he would get paid, there was this female that knew exactly when payday was, and she would magically appear and hang on to my grandson, and I tried to prevent it, but
Yes.
it just didn't work out like that. New Year's Eve, she had taken his phone away from him, and she thought he was calling another female.
Mm-hmm.
It turned out that it was one of his other friends, and she hit him alongside the head and broke the phone, but it also cut his ear. So there was, people would like to believe that males are the perpetrators in domestic violence, but females are just as capable.
Yes.
And my grandson had been raised to not hit a female, so he didn't try to fight back or anything, where she was concerned.
Yes.
Since then, different people have come to me and have told me that she's made the comment that you better watch it, or the same thing that happened to Nick Patterson will happen to you too. But law enforcement just, I don't know if they've even tried to interview her, or if they have, I don't know what her story is.
And how long was your grandson missing? I mean, they found him, right? You guys find him, or?
Well, in May, I believe it was May of this year, just months ago, we were told that human remains had been found there in Big Valley, which is where we come from, which was a skull, some vertebrae, and part of arm bones, I believe, and it proved to be a positive DNA match to his mother and his father.
Okay.
So,
I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, as I had said a while ago too, in the beginning, when all of this was happening, I wanted blood of those people that we felt were responsible. I wanted awful bad things to happen to them, because some of the stories that had come back to me, what they had done to him, were horrible, horrible things. But I got past that, and because I knew that if I just kept thinking about that, it would do nobody any good.
Yes.
And then I went through a period of time to where I just didn't care one way or another. I just wanted confirmation one way or the other whether or not he was still with us, or whether he was actually gone. And then in May, when we did get the confirmation that he won't ever come back to us, now I just want justice to be served to those that are responsible for my grandson not coming home. Because I don't want another family, another mother, grandmother, brother, sister, whatever, to have to go through the agony and the uncertainty and that heartbreak that we've had to endure.
Yes.
I want them to come to justice.
Do you feel like somebody, like the community, like from what I understand, from my experience, it always seems like someone in the community knows, and then someone needs to speak up.
Yes.
And bring this person to justice. I mean, it's in the communities that I've seen and I've lived in also, that are community people know.
Yes.
And they need to step up and speak up about who did it and what happened.
Yes. And it's an ugly thing when you know that it's your own tribal members. I've been part of our tribal enrollment committee for several years now, 10 years or better. And some of these people I've helped, with their applications, their figure out the lineage on their family trees. And, I did it because part of it is what part of being a committee member.
Mm-hmm.
And because I know tribal history.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sit here and try to sing praises or anything like that, but I feel like a natural, helpful person.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to see people hurt, or, if I can help them, I will. And then to know that they gave my grandson no consideration.
Mm-hmm.
It's really disgusting, and it's disheartening, for other supposedly humans to behave in that manner.
Yes, I mean, as Indigenous people, and I was talking before, when a person dies in our family, it affects us later as the kids get older. We have culture or ceremonies, and you think about what would be like if your grandson was here still, and we still go through it after it's over. We still go through it for generations.
Mm-hmm. Well, my dad was a boarding school survivor. They took him as a young child to Carson City, to the Stewart Indian School over there. And I believe straight from there he went into the military, to the Army first and then the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
And as it's common, that was during Korea.
Okay.
And when he come home, Indian people were still looked down on.
Yeah.
It didn't matter that they had put their lives on the line for good old America.
Mm-hmm. I understand, yes.
And like I say, my grandson was a helpful person too. He was the kind of person that if he saw there was something that needed to be done, he didn't wait to be asked. He just got up and did it.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, I'm sorry for your loss. I mean, being here at the conference, is there anything that you think we could, as a community, do better for something like this? What happened to other grandkids or any other Indigenous people? Is it to deal with the police, the community, or anything that you want to see different?
well, I would like to see the law enforcement do their job and not separate themselves so much, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I know up in Alturas at one point there was a judge and a deputy, I think. I have one son left. My oldest son died later on in 2020, that same year after my grandson went missing.
Oh, wow.
And it was kind of a double whammy there.
Yeah, sure.
But my youngest son is 36, and but these law enforcement and the judge would do like a basketball thing and be out there amongst the community.
Mm-hmm.
And when they approach others as being part of the human race,
Mm-hmm.
And not set up on their high horse and be unapproachable,
Mm-hmm.
it goes a long ways.
Yes.
As building
Relationships. Yeah.
Creating that good rapport.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to see more of that happen.
Yeah.
Modoc County seems to be more helpful toward us.
Mm-hmm.
They've come to the house, and they wanted to look into my grandson's room, and that's one thing that bothers me is in our culture, right away we clean the room, burn the clothes,
Yes,
bedding, and all of that, and I understand the discipline behind all of that, and we've not been able to do that because they told us that not to touch anything. They had to come and look things over, and the longer that goes, that time passes, the harder it gets. I know, just until here recently, I kept a light on in my grandson's room because I just thought that if he came home, I didn't want him to think that I had already gotten rid of his stuff and closed up his room. I didn't want him to think that I forgot about him already. But we have to go on to.
Yes. It's like we didn't really get the ceremony done for him. So, I mean, I could see why you feel that way, because if the ceremony's not complete, then those feelings come out, and how you feel about your grandson right now.
Yes. With my son, it doesn't mean that I loved him any less, but we were able to go through those steps. We cleaned, we had his wake, took him up and buried him in the cemetery not far from our little reservation there. And of course it hurts.
Yeah.
He was only 47 when he died, and he left two little girls, a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old. But those children were also a part of our family's healing, because we knew that those poor little bewildered babies needed us to continue on and be their security and their stability, because their dad wasn't there anymore.
Yes.
And so, in that respect, our Indian ways are there for a reason. They're not bad things. They're not rituals and chants and voodoo and whatever other negative things that ignorant people that don't understand or that refuse to understand our ways. They're there for a reason.
And it has to be done in a certain way, in a certain time, for especially for a burial for Indian people.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, thank you for taking the time to come and talk with us and make sure that we remember your grandson's name and remember all the people that's passed, the Indigenous community, and just for the community to step up and help, for all the police to help out and everyone get together so things like this won't happen.
Well, I will say that our family's had a lot of support in that, there have been people that have showed up at our rallies, people that helped us, on the marches that we've done, help pass out flyers. And people have told me that they have spotted his flyer in Arizona and New Mexico, Colorado and Montana, as far away as that. And, just simple thing is, how you doing today?
Yeah, right.
And, or tell us, there'll be people that knew Nick, and, will tell us that some funny little story, and it just makes me feel good to know that other people loved my grandson too.
Yes. It doesn't seem like you put things together. I've heard some stories today, and I heard your grandson's story. I've seen his flyer on Facebook. I've seen it, and I live in Arizona, but again, I never put two and two together until I see it. Like I saw Khadijah, and I seen her all this time. I never knew it was Ronnie, my friend Ronnie, that was related. I know Ronnie, And I was like, we've got to put these things together because we're just like, not really watching or listening. And, we just got to pay more attention to our people that are missing.
Yes. I feel so bad when I see him and his wife, because they were some of the people that really stood out to me when we first started attending these rallies and things. We went to Sacramento, and there were other families that were there and told their story about their missing loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Hostler was one of them, and he's still there. And like I said, as much as it hurts knowing that someone has done this to my grandson, and we don't have a whole body. With him, he doesn't have anything to, he knows that she probably isn't coming home, but to not have anything is just, humans are built for the tangible. We want that concrete evidence. We have all the senses of, touch and hearing and sight and all of that. And, we have to be able to utilize those to understand as best as we can. And when you don't have anything, it really, it's so incomplete, and it's such an elusive thing.
Yes. I mean, to know that possibly this person, whoever had done that to your grandson, is still out there and still around the community.
Yes.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. So,
all right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for your time. I know you had to tell the story again for the second time. You did it on the panel up there on stage. It was very touching, and I hope everybody listens and, be aware of our people.
Well, I thank you, and all the others that, not just the people that show up to these events, but, there's countless others that support. We had little money jars setting up around the Alturas and Big Valley area to help with costs for Nick. And his cousins next door, little girls, when they would get their allowance, they would save it. And this one day, their dad told us that they went down to this store called the Red Barn, and they said, we brought our money. Is it okay if we put it in Nick's jar? And he said, well, yeah, it's your money if you want to. And so they did. But then they asked him, how much more money do we need before they finally let Nick come home to us?
Oh, man.
Oh, my gosh. That just broke my heart.
Yeah.
They don't realize that, it's not just the adults that are hurt and that can't understand, but there's the little ones.
Oh, man. Wow.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Laura. Thank you for taking the time to come here and tell us your story. We make sure all these listeners will, take this in and understand what's going on in our community.
Well, thank you for taking the time to allow me
Anytime.
To tell this again. There in the beginning, it just felt like it was over and over again. But if it will help to bring somebody to justice for my grandson, but if it'll, bring cognizance for the others, we're not the only family that has gone through this horrible, horrible heartbreak.
Yeah.
So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. Thank you. My final interview is with Jesse James of the Yurok tribe in Hoopa, California. Jesse lost his brother Paul James Jr., who was only 42 years old. Paul was last seen December 30th, 2024, and was later found under the Trinity River Bridge on January 8, 2025. Jesse and his family are still seeking answers and justice for Paul. The interview is especially emotional as Jesse speaks while his mother and grandmother sits beside him, sharing in the grief and determination to find the truth. Please take a moment to listen to his story. Jess, can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Jess McLaughlin, and I'm a Yurok tribal member, and I live along the Klamath River in Wichita, California.
And coming here today, Jess, is it what's the awareness you want to bring about your brother that passed?
Yes.
Okay, tell us the story.
All right, well, my brother, he's back when he was a young teenager, he ended up going to this party and doing some drugs and stuff that he shouldn't have been doing. And back then, it kind of permanently fried his mind a little bit. So he was kind of stuck in a teenager's phase of mind. He was doing drugs that he shouldn't have. We took him to a medicine doctor, and she told us, some things to try to help him out. But as he got older, he just kept on having problems. There was times where, my mom would try to get him help. So he went to Simple Virus a couple times, and they kept telling us that no, there's nothing wrong with him. But there'd be times where he'd just be talking some nonsense, walking down the road. Just, you could tell that there was something wrong with him.
Yes.
And since then, as he got older, we tried getting him help and trying getting him into places and asking for help, and people would just kept on telling us, and there wasn't that much they could do for him.
Right.
And, and as things kept going, he ended up being able to get like social service money because they did some tests on him, and they realized that, he can't work, he can't do that. So he started getting SSI money every month, and he'd get it all the time, every month for like 5 years. And so then we were learning that my mother hit me up and she told me, your brother, he hasn't touched his money in like 5 days. I'm getting kind of worried. And I started thinking about it. That's not how my brother rolls.
That's not how he is,
Yeah, no, if he has money on his card, then he's going to spend his money, and he's going to be all about his snacks. And so when we were told that he has not touched his money in 5 days, that's when we started worrying, and we were like, okay, we need to go talk to the law, put it in a missing report, because there's something here that's just not right. I just wasn't feeling right about it.
Right.
So then after that, my wife, she ended up putting a picture up on Facebook and doing these little flyers and stuff on social media, because that's what she's really good at.
And what year was this again?
This was this last winter.
Okay.
Yeah, so this was just 2024.
Okay.
New Year's Eve is when this all when my brother happened to my brother.
Okay.
So, and yeah, as he wasn't spending any of his money. So then I asked my wife, because she worked at the local place where you go and get food and stuff, and she said she's seen him on New Year's Eve. He came in and he didn't have any money on him. He was counting change to buy a fountain soda. So she's like, I got you, brother. Here.
Yeah.
Here, I'll pay for your lunch, I'll pay for your soda. And he's like, oh, thank you, sister.
Yeah.
And that was the last time that my wife ever seen him, and that was the day before New Year's Eve. And so we went out and we went to this gathering on New Year's Eve, and we was having a good old time. And for some reason, we knew right then that there was nothing going on in the town of Hoopa, but we was partying up in Willow Creek for New Year's Eve. And we all got this weird feeling like, hey, let's rip down to Hoopa real quick, like just, for right before New Year's, just because. And we went down there, and the town was dead, and we just went to the spot. And what was crazy is my brother was living right across the river from this casino, and for some reason there was this energy that pulled us down to the valley for no reason. And it was really close to New Year's Eve, and there was nobody down there, and we went down there and there was nobody there. So we was like, all right, well, let's just go head on back up to where we were at. We don't know why we came down here. It just felt really weird. So then we go back up there, and we make it back in time, then we come back down, and then the next day, was the first, and that's when my brother's money should have been on his card, and he would have been at the store, buying snacks and stuff.
Well, he usually does.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So then right then it was like, that's weird. Another day goes by. I asked my mom, you know what I mean, has he touched his money yet? Because she's his money caregiver for him.
Yeah.
And that's my mom right there. And he didn't touch it, she said. So then we started like, well, that's weird. We'll start asking, you know what I mean, the locals, you know what I mean, have you seen my brother? You know what I mean, when's the last time you seen him? And people would be like, oh, no, I haven't seen him, but maybe you should go check he's been hanging out over at this house over here by the river. And he's been hanging out with Alec Lane Bear. And so we're like, all right, well, maybe I'll start trying to find out where Alec is so I could ask him, yo, hey, I heard my brother's been hanging out with you. Have you seen him?
Yeah.
So we couldn't find him at all. And, you know what I mean, days go by, we're still just keep looking for him. And the night before my wife planned this river walk. We was going to walk from the Witchbeck village where my brother lives, and we was going to walk to Hoopa because that's like that's where he goes.
Yeah.
That's his pattern.
Everybody sees him probably walking that.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, that's where everybody gives him rides and stuff. So, all right, so we're going to walk the whole thing. And so we was getting that all planned out. And then like the night before that, I was like, you know what? Alec's mom lives right across our little cul-de-sac in the Indian housing there. I'm going to go over and ask his mom, you know what I mean? Have you seen Alec? I want to ask him a question. I want to, you know what I mean? I heard, you know what I mean? So I go over there, I walk over there, and I knock on the door to, you know what I mean, talk to his mom. And to believe, it kind of shocked me because who answered the door? He opened the door up. It was Alec Lane Bear, and his eyes got big, like he was just in super shock, like, oh, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, man, just the person I was looking for. I got to ask you some questions, dude.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, yeah, what's up? I was like, yeah, I heard my brother's been hanging out with you, you know what I mean? I heard you guys have been downtown Hoopa, and you guys are, staying at the same place. Where's my brother at? Where's the last time you seen my brother? And it's already been like 5-6 days and that my brother's been missing. This is like on the 6th when I go over to his mother's house. And he's like, oh, yeah, I left Paul downtown 2 days ago. I was like, oh, really? 2 days ago, huh? Well, where'd you leave him at? Oh, just downtown. He just kept on walking. And his brother gave him a weird look, too. He's like, what? That's a little weird, dude. Like, 2 days ago, huh? Well, what was you guys doing? He's like, oh, nothing. We just hanging out. I just left him downtown 2 days ago. That was the last time I seen him. I was like, all right, well, where'd you see him? Oh, just right downtown. We're going to go ahead and cross the Trinity Bridge. And I was like, all right. So then that's when the next day we ended up walking with my son and we walking looking for my brother. We've seen a bunch of different abandoned cars over the hill. Every time we'd see one, we'd walk way down in the brush just to look to make sure. And we kept on seeing bags and trash bags, and we went down there and we cut them open just to make sure there was
nothing in there, right?
Yes, because at that time we were knowing that, this is too many days. My brother hasn't touched his money, and this is not like him. And for some reason, us Indian people, we get kind of emotionally attached.
Yeah.
And I looked my wife in the eye, and I told her, I don't feel my brother's presence anymore. I don't think he's around. And she told me, stay strong, because, I've kind of got that same feeling that we got to expect the worst, that, he's been missing this many days, nobody's seen him, he hasn't touched his money, that you got to expect the worst, baby, to get me prepared for that. And I kind of felt her because I did not feel my brother's presence. And I told her, I was raised up in the same bedroom, I was on the bottom bunk, he was on the top bunk all my life. I got this connection with my brother. So then, after we go and we're looking for my brother, we did this walk, and we started walking the back roads, and we ended up going downtown, and we seen this guy. He was yelling at this other dude that was supposedly hanging out at this house. I'm just going to throw his name out there, too. His name is Josh Moon. And so we pulled in and we asked this dude, yo, what are you doing? What's going on? You know what I mean? And he's like, oh, man, I just want to beat these guys up, man. They're over here. They're doing something fishy. I know they got something to do. You know what I mean? They know something about your brother and they're not talking about it. He's like, take me over to this place. I'm going to go talk to his woman, you know what I mean? See what she kind of information she can give you. I was like, all right. So we went and we dropped him off up to where he was going to get this information. And as we're cruising back down through the Hoopa Valley town, we see Josh Moon and Alec Lane Bear walking right there in front of my wife's workplace. And my mom was like, oh, should we put cruising? And I was like, nah, just keep driving a little bit. We don't want to spook them out. So I said, go down the road, turn around, and we're going to hop out. And my wife was working that day, and she was about to call me, and she said, you know what I mean, these guys that are out here, they're walking in front of my workplace. They're staying in this abandoned house out behind where I'm working. They're hiding out. They're being weird. They're acting really suspicious. So as we pulled in there, I hopped out of the car, and I walked up to him, and I told him, get in the car. And he looked at me weird, and my mom told him, get in. So then he got in the car, and I told him, take me to where my brother is. I know you know something. And he was like, oh, yeah, you know what? Actually, I think I seen a body over here in the brush about 2 days ago, I think. And I was like, and then my son was like, oh, for real, cuz? 2 days? 2 days ago you seen this body? How come you never told anybody? How come you didn't go across town and, you know what I mean, turn this into somebody or tell anybody to, you know what I mean? If you think you saw a body there 2 days ago, why wouldn't you say something? And then I cut my son off, and I was like, what? You seen this body here 2 days ago, bro? I was at your mom's house last night, and you didn't tell me any of this. You told me you last seen my brother 2 days ago. It's kind of crazy how everything's this 2 days ago.
2 days every time.
Yeah, 2 days in. And it was like, okay. So then, you know what I mean? Well, as he's in the car and we're cruising up there, I was like, and he just said, stop, right here on the middle, like at the far end of the bridge. And I was like, what, stop? And we got out, and he walked up to the sidewalk, and he pointed over to the bridge, and he was all right there. And I get out the car, and I look with my son, and I look over the side.
Take your time, man. It's okay.
And I seen my brother's legs hanging out of the brush, and I seen his clothes, and I knew it was the same description of my mom saying of the clothes he was wearing. It was the same description of the clothes that he was wearing that my wife seen him last. So then I was like, all right, that's my brother. And I started yelling, and he started walking down the trail, and it took everything in me to not want to harm him. I looked my son in the eyes, and he said, don't do it, Dad. You got more to lose than this. We need you. So I was like, all right, I'm going to walk down here. I'm going to make sure that it's really my brother or if it's somebody else, because there was another person missing too. So I just walked down there. I already looked over, and I already knew it was him. But as I got closer, I realized that, yes, that's my brother. I seen him, and I could identify him, and I knew his body and everything. And I was like, that's my brother. And then all I could do was just start screaming and crying and yelling. And then he takes off walking over to this tree and stuff, and he's all up there yelling, well, is it him? Well, and he's just being like, just running his mouth. And it's like, okay, and I just want to go over there and just start wally-whopping him. But then, you know what I mean? I look over at my son, and I was like, call your mom. Tell her we found him. So then he called her, and she was only working just a little ways down the road. And it broke my heart because I could hear her screaming and yelling all through town that we found him. We found you, brother. And then I just had to walk down there, and then I walked over there, and I started talking to Alec, and I was like, you know something about this. I know you know more about this. What happened to my brother? I want to know the story. I'm not, you know what I mean? I just want to know what happened to him. And he's like, oh, I wouldn't never do anything. I didn't do that to him. I don't know. It's like, no, you know way too much about this stuff. You took me right to the body. Even days after I came and asked you, you know what I mean? You could have told me all this stuff the night before I came up to you and was talking to you. And then by that time, you know what I mean, the cops come in and they take him and they go put him in a cop car. And we had to wait for the coroner and all the investigators. I wanted to go in and grab my brother and pull him up out of the brush. But then I was like, no, I can't touch him because there's evidence there and stuff. So that was really hard, just to have to sit there and wait all these hours for the coroner. It took him like 3 hours to even just show up. And I had to sit there, and all my family's sitting there looking at my brother just laying in the brush, and we can't pull him out.
Yeah.
And then the family members of the person that showed me there, they come down, they just start getting lippy with us and just causing problems with us. And it's like, we're going through enough. Why would you come down here and, you know what I mean, do all this stuff? And they were just kept on doing it. And so we finally had to have the cops like, yo, my mom's over here with her heart's not doing something. They're giving her stuff to try to calm her down, and you got these people over here riling her up. Can you please ask them to leave? And they were like, oh, well, we can go ask. I was like, you can either go ask, you know what I mean, or we can make them leave. So then they ended up leaving. And yeah, just like I said, it took a long time for the cops to get up there, and it was just crazy. But there's more to the story too. As we was looking for my brother's body, people kept telling us, go over to River Road house, over to this house. You know what I mean? Your brother's been hanging over there with Alec. And you know what I mean? The day, like 3 days before we found my brother's body, I went over there, and it was like kind of a tweaker house. The windows were all busted out and stuff, and there was tarps all over the windows, blankets. So I mean, all I could do was I ripped through the curtain with my cell phone and started taking pictures just to make sure my brother wasn't in that house. And as I left and I was looking through it and I was showing my wife the pictures, because I didn't even look at the pictures yet. As I was replaying it, there was a blanket in the back room that was supposedly where my brother stayed, and there was 2 bodies laying under there as I looked at the video, and there's a person there telling the other person underneath the blanket, shh, stay down, they're coming. And so then at that time, when I showed my wife those videos, I go over and I get one of my buddies like, hey, yo, I really need your help, you know, grab some artillery. We're going over here to, I think my brother's in this back room. We need to go check this out. So we open up the door, go in there, and the blanket's gone. Those bodies aren't in there. And the crazy thing is, all the flooring in that back room is all ripped up within a half an hour.
So like been cleaned up or something.
Yes. And so then we go and we search the rest of the house, and we come back the next day, and there's new flooring in the back room after it was all ripped out, and there's burn piles out in the backyard, and it's just, all new flooring. And we walk through, the rest of the house is all cleaned up. You know what I mean? Like, we've all seen drug houses. They're not clean.
No, they're not.
They're not clean. And this place was spick and span. They swept it. They bleached it. There's bleach marks all over. And they cleaned it up really good. So I was like, no, this is a little weird. And I was thinking, my brother, he's not a cleaner. He doesn't clean up after himself. My brother doesn't clean. This is very strange. And I was like, if my brother's been staying here for like 3 months, where's his belongings? Where's his clothes? Where's his socks, a pair of shoes? Or he eats a lot of snacks. Where's his candy wrappers? He doesn't pick up after himself. So where's all his stuff that, you know what I mean? It shows evidence that my brother's been staying here. And there was none of that. So then, like I said, it was all clean. The sliding glass window was broken because on and off, she called us and she said on New Year's Eve, she heard somebody over there yelling and screaming. Like she thought maybe there was a fight or something like that. So that's why we ended up going over to that house and looking, and we were noticing that, there was a sliding glass window in there that had a brand new tarp on it for some reason. I was like, well, why is this brand new tarp on the sliding glass window? There's broken glass all through there. Like maybe somebody went through the sliding glass window.
Right.
And so I went out there and I was looking, and there was like cement center blocks there, looking around. And I was thinking, well, maybe he went out and he cracked his head or something like that. Or, you know what I mean? Maybe these guys used him for his monthly money that he gets all the time, was trying to rob him, and took his money and just ditched him. There was all kinds of things going on in my head.
Dang.
And so then after that, we kept on going back to the house, and we kept on finding more weird things and just strange stuff. And I was like, this is very weird. Every time I come back to this house, there's something different. The next time we
changing it.
Every time, and it shouldn't have been changed like that. So then we go back there the last day, and there's like 5 dope bags, 3 smoking devices for smoking meth, mountain full of syringe needles, a little note with a bunch of tools. Oh, here's some tools from us, J Moon. I was like, well, who's this J Moon? So that's when I was like, and why are all these tools here? And it was just crazy. So then the next day, we find my brother, and I tried telling the cops, you guys need to go over there, you know what I mean? there's stuff over here at this house. I think you guys need to go investigate and do some more things. They're like, oh no, you know what I mean? It's a dope house. It's contaminated. There's no evidence there. We can't do nothing. You know what I mean?
They can't get the dope out.
Nothing.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, that's just strange. So just let it still be there and be a dope house. You guys know
it's still
that.
illegal.
Yeah. So we go back and we take some more pictures because there's these weird little shapes that look like shallow graves, like the shapes of bodies dug up all around the yard, brush piled, put on top of these piles. So I start ripping these piles apart just to see if I could find any evidence of like my brother's things or maybe even a body, because these shapes of these dirt was crazy. And we started hitting bedrock and it just getting way too much. So I was like, oh no, he's not here. So then the next day we get a call and like, hey, somebody burnt that house down.
Oh my.
I'm like, are you serious? They're like, yeah, I think somebody burnt it down to try to get rid of evidence or something. I was like, oh my God. Now I was like, of course. So then that just led to them saying, oh, well, yeah, no, we can't do anything.
Yeah.
There's nothing, you know what
There's
I mean?
no evidence, yeah.
And I was like, oh, I got all these pictures and everything. I sent them the pictures. They still haven't done anything about it.
And what police is this? The Tupa police or?
Humboldt County.
Humboldt County?
Yes.
Okay.
And and then we started talking to the investigators, and they were telling us, you know what I mean, they're going to do something about it, and we gave them the story. I gave them all those pictures and all that stuff. And then there was this lady who works at the Hoopa Mini Mart gas station. She's a manager, and she said, hey, I got this video that, you know what I mean, you should give to your investigator. There's some people that came in the day after New Year's, and they were talking about your brother's murder and stuff. They're in here drunk, just running their mouth about things that they shouldn't have been running. So I can't tell you anything because I'm on the clock right now. You know what I mean? But send the investigator over my way and we could give them the info. I was like, all right. And so, we did all that. And nothing's still open investigation. Nothing's really changed. And ever since we've done all this, now his family's given us problems. Like, he's not even on the housing list, but he's over at his mom's 6 a.m. with his shirt off, out there flexing at me and waving at me. And then when I get out of my car, he runs into his mom's house. So I just felt like he was just trying to aggravate me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, egg you on, aggravate you. Yep.
Yep. So I was like, all right, let me call housing, see what I could do. They told me to get a restraining order on him, and that, you know what I mean, that's about as much as they could do. They, you know what I mean, he's not on the housing list. I tried telling him, hey, you know what I mean, we think he possibly murdered my brother. My family don't feel safe him living over there. You know what I mean? Is there something that the tribe can do or the housing can do? And there's like, no, there ain't nothing we could do.
Yeah.
I was like, well, okay, I don't know what, you know what I mean? I don't know how you guys expect me to keep my cool if you guys ain't going to do anything. So we just keep letting it go, and I got my restraining order on him. And the next day, his brother wants to come outside. He knows that I'm home alone. My wife had to go to work. My kid went to school. I'm not there by myself. His brother comes out and starts just running his mouth and tries to start a fight with me because they know that if I get in a fight in housing property, I'll automatically get kicked out of my house.
Yes.
Yeah,
it's like that.
So I was like, oh no, that's what he's trying to do. And I was like, dude, I'm not gonna play your little game. You know what I mean? We can go off housing. You know what I mean?
You're right.
But he didn't want to do that. So then as I'm pulling out, he wants to pick up a big old river walk, and he wants to start walking at my car like he's gonna smash my window out. So I put it in park, and I was waiting for him to do it, and then he walks and throws it back in his yard and stuff. So then I go and pick up my wife, and I come back, and then I come back, and Yurok Tribal's sitting in the yard waiting. And I was like, all right, yeah, they're gonna, I'm gonna give them a statement of what happened. They're like, oh, we're here saying, you mean these people over here are saying you're over here brandishing a weapon and you're trying to harass them. I was like, this is the total opposite. I'm just trying to go pick my wife up from work and pick my kid up from school. This guy's trying to aggravate me and he's coming at my car with the rock. I was like, I didn't do anything. Because I was like, go ahead, I got insurance. Hit my car, man. You're going to do me a favor. I'm going to turn this into insurance. You're going to jail. You know what I mean? So I was just trying to keep my cool. And, still nothing was done with that at all. And, now we come down to this murder Indigenous missing persons and trying to get some more, hopefully, or try to get pointed into the right direction to where we can get some help and things. And, like I said, this guy is just still running amok.
Like he didn't do nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like walk around free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then my mom wants to call me up, and she drives the transit bus, and she's saying he's over there in Hoopa throwing his hands up to her and stuff. And I was like, well, why has he got to do all this?
Yeah,
you know what
right.
I mean? Like, why is he acting this way if he thinks he's innocent? Why is he got to act all? Yeah, I don't understand all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much the thing, and that's why I'm down here, and yeah, that's how I found my brother with my son. Yeah. We were spent days looking for him, and yeah, that's how we had to find him.
And how old was your brother at the time?
He was 42 years
42 years old. Oh man, yeah. Like you were saying, man. Everybody on the res, on my res, everybody knows that one person that walks back and forth. Everybody knows every day who's he's with. If he's missing, like, hey, where is he at? And then, you know, like your brother, like, where is he at? Everybody knows this person walks down this road. So, you know, it's just sad to see that, you know, it happened on his own community, and somebody knows. Like I always say, you know, and someone in the community knows. Everybody knows about everything. Everybody knows who's got a new car. Everybody who knows, you know, who's got new stuff. So, of course, somebody knows.
Yeah. And then the cops, they try to say, like, oh, your brother was walking on the catwalk. I was like, my brother's blind almost. He needs prescription glasses. He ain't going to climb on the catwalk. So we walked under there, and we were looking at it. The catwalk was on the total opposite side end of the bridge. If my brother was walking on the catwalk, he would have fell on the upriver side.
Yeah.
He was on the downriver side, on his head. And when we talked to the autopsy and the investigators, they said that, you know what I mean, it didn't really look like he did that to himself. When we were looking at him, it looked like when we went to do the wipe him down and all that stuff, I had to wipe him with Indian root. His head looked like he was hit with something cylinder. His head was caved in with like he was hit with like a bat or something like that. Then he had ribs that were broken, but on the opposite side of where he would have landed if he fell off the bridge. The broken ribs were on the upside.
Yeah.
And he had what looked like foot marks stomped on the back of his back, bruising right there. And yeah, he had like a broken nose. It looked like to me that, and when we found him, he was like in a defensive mode with his hands clenched up and stuff. Like, it looked like he was
in a fight, like he got jumped.
Yes, exactly. And so, I mean, that just, and then they just like, oh, well, you know what I mean, he always, you know, he was probably just drunk, or, you know what I mean, and he just fell off the bridge. And I was like, no, that's not what happened.
Yeah.
And when we looked at his body, it looked like possibly he had dirt, like somebody was dragging him. Like to me, I think they were moving his body more and more, because we kept on going over there and looking for him.
Yeah.
And at the time when this happened, the river was kind of up a little bit. So I was thinking they were trying to drag him to the river, and hopefully the river washed him out. But then it stopped raining, and the river just dropped down low.
So you think he was moved?
Yes, I do think he was moved more than once. And then after they found him and he was all at the corners, we went back over there after the house burnt down, and we was looking around. And believe it or not, bro, a lot of my brother's belongings, like his clothes and stuff, were just scattered in the yard. Like, looked like somebody was just throwing them out there, just walking here, throw a piece out there, walk over here, throw a piece out there.
Yeah.
And all that stuff was not even around that place. And it's just, you know what I mean? Like, they were taunting, like, oh, here's his stuff. Here's his stuff.
Yeah.
And all this just seems weird to me, man.
Yeah. And there's no leads or no nothing right now.
No, it's still an open investigation. This dude's still walking on the road, just throwing his hands up, smiling at me, thinking it's funny, and I'm just trying to be there for my family, and because my family needs me, and I don't want to do the wrong thing, and I want to be here for my family. So I made them that promise that, hey, I'm here for you guys. His life is not worth losing all you guys.
Yeah, it has to be the police, the Justice Department to do something, not you personally, because you got all your family with you. Yeah, that needs you.
Exactly. And it's really hard, you know what I mean, to see this guy and to hold all that emotions and everything back, and then I just got to think about my family, and you know what I mean, that's what's really stopping me from doing anything that I shouldn't be doing.
Oh man, well, I'm sorry to hear that, and I hope you find some answers, and I hope coming to these conferences really helps get the word out. Like for this, it's going to be on Apple and all the other platforms, just to get the word out about all the cases that are open and not being pursued as well, and hopefully you guys can find justice for your brother.
Yes, I hope we can find justice for my brother too.
All right, man. Well, thank you very much for your time, Jess, man. So I'm here anytime. Give me a call, email me. You want to get back on? If you got any updates, just call me. We could do the podcast over the phone. Anything you want to do.
Okay.
All right?
Yes.
Okay.
And then can I just give a rest in peace and say my brother's name?
Yes.
Rest in peace, brother. Paul Dean James Jr. We'll always remember you, brother, and we'll see you on the other side someday. Love you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening to these emotional and heartfelt stories of families who have lost their loved ones, brother, sister, son, daughter, grandson, or granddaughter. The MMIP crisis continues, and heartbreakingly, it recently struck close to home in our St. Carlos Apache Tribe community in Arizona. We lost Emily Pike, who was only 14 years old, found deceased in the mountains northeast of Globe. What can we do to prevent these horrible crimes against our indigenous communities? Did we miss something? Did people know and choose not to speak out? Did law enforcement communicate efficiently? Were there missed opportunities to save Emily? These are the questions that need answers, not just for Emily, but for every family that has lost a loved one. Thank you for listening.
Thank you all for tuning into the Fight for Existence podcast. If you guys want to keep up with the podcast in general, what you could do is follow the social media account. The Instagram account is going to be Fight for Our Existence. Again, that's Fight number 4 Our Existence. Go ahead and give that a follow. And if you guys have any questions for us or you guys would like to be on the podcast, in the Instagram, there's a link. Go ahead and click that. No matter what kind of platform you guys listen to this podcast on, there's always that plus or that follow button. So go ahead and click that so you guys can get notifications when we upload our next episode. And if you guys are listening on Spotify, what you can do is go ahead and rate the show. And if you guys are only listening on Apple Podcasts, what you can also do is write a review for the show. Thank you all for tuning into the Fight for Existence podcast, and we will talk to you next time.